Have you ever heard or read of these strategies to help you stop overeating? Use smaller plates. Get rid of your big plates and use tiny plates, and that way you just won't eat as much. What about eat only with your non-dominant hand? So if you're right-handed, only eat with your left hand. What about use thin, tall glasses instead of big, fat tumbler glasses? This will help you drink fewer calories. What about put a mirror in the kitchen on your table so that you have to look at yourself while you eat, and this will increase your accountability and self-awareness. What about chew gum all the time? This will help you stop overeating. What about just eat slower? Don't eat so fast. Don't gobble your food. What about use red plates? Yeah, so these are things that very respected doctors and nutritionists and dietitians have said out loud, on paper, in public. These are things you've probably read about in magazines or seen in television shows. All of these are foolish. They're stupid. They don't address the root cause of your overeating at all. This video is going to tell you 10 amazing ways that you can stop your overeating permanently and actually do it. So I think you're going to find this video very, very helpful if you are currently an overeater. And we're going to define later in this video what overeating actually is and what it isn't. And I think that's going to help you a lot too. All of these things that I just listed are psychological tricks. These are basically things to try to trick your frontal cortex, the conscious part of your brain. The problem is, and it's a huge problem, is that hunger and satiety, that's a pretty sciencey word of meaning, oh, I feel really full right now, I don't want to eat. The science of hunger and satiety, these processes are physiological. They're not psychological. These things are controlled very tightly by hormones and by your brain stem, the more animalistic, some people even call it the reptilian part of your brain. This part of your brain is involved in regulating your heartbeat and regulating your breathing. Now, you don't try to breathe through a tiny glass, and you don't try to put your heart on a red plate to adjust your breathing or your heart rate. None of these things are going to work for your appetite, for your hunger, for your satiation. These things are physiological. They're hormonal. They're brainstem related. And this video is going to finally, after all the yo-yo dieting, help you understand this and make specific, concrete changes in your diet and your way of eating so that you can quickly and permanently overcome your tendency to overeat. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician with 20 years of clinical experience, and this video is going to give you 10 amazing ways to stop overeating. Are you ready for this? I'm going to give you a partial list of the hormones that are involved in telling you that you're hungry or telling you that you're full, that you're satiated. These hormones include, but are not limited to, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, neuropeptide Y, peptide YY, they get very creative naming these things, cholecystokinin, and GLP-1. These are hormones that are hardwired in your physiology to tell you either you're hungry, you should eat, or you are full, you should not eat. Now, there are ways that you can hack these hormones and put them in the sweet spot so that you're not hungry for hours, so that when you do eat, you eat until you're appropriately full, which is not a bad thing, then you stop eating. So that's what these amazing tips are going to help you understand. So let's jump into this. Number one, stop eating sugar, whether it's added sugar or natural sugar. Stop eating sugar and stop drinking sugar. Sugar elevates your insulin level, which tweaks all these other hormones in the wrong direction. Also, sugar is one of the least satiating of all the substances you can eat. And so you can eat sugar and you're hungry again in 30 minutes because it doesn't move these hormones in the proper direction. Number two, stop eating all grains. Grains are exactly the same as sugar. They may be a little less bad than just pure sugar out of the sugar bowl, but not much. They don't contain any meaningful amount of protein. They're all carbohydrate, starch, and they're not going to give you the long-term sense of fullness, which is going to keep you from overeating. Number 3 is you've got to stop snacking in between meals. And I know, that may sound impossible right now with your current diet, but steps 8 and 9 are going to give you a hack that you may have never heard before, and you're going to be able to stop snacking in between meals, because I suspect at least part of your motivation for stopping your overeating is to lose fat, to lose weight. And steps 8 and 9 are going to really help with that and help you stop the snacking in between meals. Snacking in between meals, especially with the things that most people snack on, are going to move all these hormones in the wrong direction, and you'll be hungry again in 1 or 2 hours. Therefore, you're overeating again. Step number 4 is stop eating baked goods. Now, definitely I want you to stop eating baked goods that contain sugar and wheat or rice or oats or corn. But also for many people on a low-carb diet or a ketogenic diet, if they're eating keto-friendly baked goods all day that use almond flour or coconut flour, these things can trigger your old overeating addiction. Yeah, it's kind of an addiction. And you will wind up overeating on things that are low carb approved or keto approved. So stop all the cookies, cakes, pies, breads, regardless of their ingredients, if you're still overeating. And that will help you more than maybe any of these other tips will. Step number 5 is to stop using any sweetener. So if you have no problem with overeating, you can keep using your stevia or your monk fruit or your aspartame or whatever you use. But if you're still overeating, then probably the artificial sweeteners are doing the same thing that sugar does by way of a process called the cephalic phase insulin response. You're raising your insulin even though you're not eating sugar. And remember, high insulin is going to tweak all these other hormones in the wrong direction. Number 6 is you've got to get better sleep. If you stay up late and get up early, you are set up for a snacky overeating day the next day. You have to honor your sleep and make sure you're getting enough sleep for you, whether that's 6, 7, 8, or 9 hours. We're all a little different in that department, it seems like. But anytime you are underslept, you are at high risk of snacking all day and overeating. Number 7 is you got to learn ways to control the stress. We're living in very stressful times these days, and sometimes you can't fix the thing that's causing you stress. But what you can do is fix how you react to the stress. When you're under chronic, inappropriate stress, like a bad job, a bad relationship, whatever, your cortisol level is going to be higher than it should be. And when you have a high cortisol level, that's going to set you up for snacking all day and for overeating ultimately. You got to learn strategies, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, whether it's getting a massage, whether it's meditating, whether it's going for a walk every morning in the sun for 30 minutes. You've got to figure out a way to control the stress to keep your cortisol level normal so that you can stop overeating. Number 8, now this is a big one. You need to eat more healthy fats. Eating fat does not make you fat. That is a myth if you're being generous, and it's a big fat lie if you're being snarky. There's no truth in this. Eating fat does not make you fat. The macronutrient fat, and there's 3 macronutrients, right? There's protein, there's fat, and there's carbohydrates. These are the 3 macronutrients. And when you eat more fat in your diet, this hacks all of those hunger and satiety hormones I talked about earlier. It puts them in the sweet spot so that you're not hungry for hours after you eat a meal full of healthy fat. So it's easy not to snack when you're not hungry, right? And by eating more fat in your diet, you're going to move all these hunger and fullness hormones in the sweet spot so that you can go for hours without eating, without snacking. Number 9 is eat more protein in your diet. Protein is not bad for you. Protein is not bad for your kidneys. It's not bad for your liver. Protein will never make you fat. Eat more protein. And so usually this comes, the most absorbable, usable kinds of protein come from animal sourced foods. So by eating more fatty meat, you're going to take care of step number 8 and step number 9 as a way an amazing way to stop your overeating. And then step number 10, and then I want you to really pay attention to this, is eat until you are full. When you are chronically undereating, calorie restricting, portion controlling, you're starving yourself. This is not a natural condition. It's the same exact thing as if you tried to only breathe 8 times a minute because you didn't want to be an air glutton. That makes no sense. You breathe as much as you want to, as much as you need to. You don't even have to think about it. Your hunger and your overeating will fall under the same set of rules if you eat lots of fat and protein and you eat until you're comfortably full. If you're undereating, that's inappropriate. Eating until you're comfortably full is not overeating. That's what you're supposed to do every time you sit down to a meal. You're supposed to breathe until your body has enough oxygen. Your heart is supposed to beat enough times until you've got the oxygen circulated. And when you sit down to a meal, you're supposed to eat until you're comfortably full. Now, I've got 2 playlists on this channel, and they're going to pop up here and here at the end of this video. They are full of strategies, full of recipes, full of good, healthy foods, full of fat and protein that will help you adhere to all 10 of these amazing ways to stop overeating. When you take charge of your eating, when you take charge of your way of eating, it actually gives you the power to start taking charge of other parts of your life. This is Dr. Barry. I'll see you next time.